Preview.
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Buzzer. I am your host, Landon Potvin. Today we have a very special guest, Mike Shannahan. He's joining us from Seattle, Washington today. How you doing, Mike?
Dude, I'm doing swell, man. Thanks for having me. I've been following you guys, so it's cool to be on with you.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Get some new guest experience here. But today we're doing a little bit different. We are going to have players from 10 to 1 instead of 12 to 1, just to make these videos a little bit quicker. Mike is a little bit older than most of us. No offense, not much older, but a couple of years. So he has some experience that some of us don't have, which is the ability to or have seen some of these players. So I'm going to start with my number 10, Alonzo Mourning, in his Miami Heat days. Or excuse me, we are doing the Southeast teams today: the Miami Heat, Charlotte Hornets, the Washington Wizards, Atlanta Hawks, and the Orlando Magic. So today, number 10 for me, Alonzo Mourning. In his Heat days, you could argue were his best days and at some point some of his worst days, right, Mike? He was a 5-time All-Star, 2-time block champ, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, which were back-to-back, and he also won all defense, of course, and then 2 all-time NBA. So Alonzo Mourning, he also won a championship, but I'm going to be honest, I don't really consider him a champion because he had Shaquille O'Neal on his team and Dwayne Wade. Mourning played, I think it was like 12 minutes a game during those playoff runs. So, Mike, who is your number 10?
Yeah, no, I hear you on Mourning. He's in my top 10 here too, but I'm going to start somewhere a little bit different, somewhere a lot different, actually. I'm going to go with the Charlotte Hornets. I think he was there. So in the expansion draft of I believe it was 1988, the Charlotte Hornets and the aforementioned Miami Heat, basically they went, I think, 11 and 12 respectively in order and got to pick from teams around the NBA, basically cherry pick some of their players. Now, obviously, teams were able to protect. I think it was 8 players per team,
Yeah,
but they at least got some decent talent to start their teams. And originally, when I read this, I thought Muggsy Bogues was the first pick of the Charlotte Hornets in that draft. He was not, because I thought that would be a really interesting place for a team to begin their franchise with a 5'3", the shortest player to ever play in the NBA. But he was their 3rd overall pick after Del Curry, and I'm blanking on the second. Anyways, look, as far as Muggsy Bogues goes, you got to look past the stats. We're talking 8 points a game, 3 rebounds a game, 8 assists per game. He was really a true point guard. 2 steals a game. The funny one to me is the blocks per game. 0.1 blocks per game.
Wow.
I think if you were to be blocked by Muggsy Bogues, you had to pay up to your teammates. You owed somebody something because
Right.
that's unacceptable. But again, you got to look past the stats with Bogues. He brought a lot of intangibles to the game, and he was really a true point guard. Tenacity. He was, I mean, the determination, the heart, the charisma. He brought all that to a whole new level. And you have to at 5'3", right?
Oh, for sure. I've been reading this book, The Book of Basketball by Bill Simmons. He mentioned some great things.
Yeah.
Shane Battier actually leads this category, but like you said, the things that nobody notices, the things that aren't on the stat books, diving for loose balls, literally diving into the stands. And then there's the team chemistry part of it, being the leader, making sure everybody does their job. So like you said, there's so many more things that a player, especially at 5'3", that can do for a team.
Yeah.
So I'll give you my number 9 here, Wes Unseld. Unfortunately, he passed away 2 weeks ago, so rest in peace up there. But rebound champ. He was a 1-time rebound champ. In his rookie year, he won MVP. Now, there's only 2. He was one of 2 players to ever do that. Now, unfortunately, he was with the Houston Rockets when he did that, so can't credit him for that on my list. But he's also an NBA champ, 1-time All-NBA, 1-time MVP, 1-time Finals MVP, and a 5-time All-Star. So back in the 70s when players weren't that talented, he was one of the best there was, and he was great at what he did, rebounding that ball and getting those loose points under the hoop. So, Mike, you're number 9.
Yeah, my number 9. I'm going to go a different direction again. You're going to see a theme with mine. Most
I'm
of them,
excited.
most of my picks. I think I could say I was able to watch them play at some point. But not that I don't appreciate a couple people on your list here that we'll find out soon, just like Unseld. But I'm going to go also the complete opposite of Muggsy Bogues in the height department with Dwight Howard of the Orlando Magic. He spent, I believe, 2004 through 2012 in Orlando, 18 points per game, basically averaged a double-double at 12 rebounds per game. He was a force down low. You talk about a scouting report. Every team knows every time they're going in to Orlando or to play the Magic, you got to deal with Dwight Howard.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you think of other Magic greats at that position. You think of Shaquille O'Neal. Was he Shaq? No. They're different players, though.
Very.
I kind of look at Dwight Howard. He's like a LeBron James type center. He's got a little more height, but he's so athletic. The dude is, if he had a little more dribbling, shooting skills, it's just kind of unreal how athletic Dwight Howard was at that position. And when I compare him to Shaq, it doesn't mean, it's not a diss. He just was a little less dominant down low. But in terms of shot blocking and rebounding, hard to find anybody as good as Dwight Howard.
I'm going to have to give you a quick counter here, Mike. Shaquille O'Neal on the Magic. When he was with the Magic, he's fresh out of college, 19 years old, number 1 overall pick. That guy was athletic. Shaquille O'Neal, fresh out of college, was athletic. Dwight Howard, or when Shaq got later in his years, of course, when he, even like 5 years later when he was with the Lakers, he lost some athleticism. And but they call him the Diesel for a reason. Dwight Howard, you're going to see him a little later on my list, but my number 8 is Agent Zero, Gilbert Arenas. The guy was a pure bucket getter. Never won nearly any awards, but when he was with the Wizards, 25, 6, and 2, 3-time All-NBA, 3-time All-Star. He was 1 pick away from Mr. Irrelevant. Now, Shanahan, do you know what that means?
Mr. Irrelevant, is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah, is that last pick in the draft?
That is the last pick in the draft. Now, he wasn't the last pick, but he was 59. So being the 59 pick in the draft and being All-NBA 3 times in your career is pretty phenomenal, and props to him. But the guy, like I said, was a bucket, and he would take you on the dance floor sometimes, and most likely you'd not be able to hang with him. Yeah, just a quick little cool stat. He averaged 10 free throws a game twice in his career. Now, that's pretty impressive with his – and he was on the shorter side too. He's like 6'2", 6'3", so I find Agent Zero a pretty great basketball player.
Yeah, he was. He, unfortunately, there are a few incidences that tarnish his name a little bit, I think, present day, because he was phenomenal. I completely agree. Now, I'm going to go slightly different. I'm going to stick with another Magic player here, Tracy McGrady, T-Mac. He played with the Magic from 2000 to 2004. And you look at his splits statistically here, his career versus his Magic career. So his career as a whole, he had averaged about 20 points a game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. And then you look at those 4 years he spent in Orlando, 28 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, 5 assists per game. All of his statistics were up big time. And actually, I believe 2 of the 4 years he actually spent in Orlando, he led the league in scoring.
Yes,
which is pretty phenomenal. He was one of the best scorers of his time there in the NBA.
Do you have on hand where he was when he got drafted? Is it Toronto? Is that where he got drafted?
That sounds right.
So yeah,
I don't.
Once he came out of Toronto and went to the Magic, I think the Magic was his second team. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah,
he was the most improved player when he went to the Magic. It must be the coaching, or maybe he just really wanted to take his skills to the next level. But like you said, McGrady was actually my number 11. But yeah, 2-time scoring champ, 4-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA, and the most improved. So
I've got one for you here too. On the free throws per game, 9.7 times per game he got to the free throw line.
yeah.
Pretty damn good.
That just shows how much of a scorer he is. He's he's willing to take contact and still score.
Yeah.
So let's move into number 7. My number 7, Shaquille O'Neal. He has 2 different careers, one with the Magic, one with the Heat. Didn't really win with the Magic, but I mean, he was going against those Lakers teams. So when he was with the Heat is where I got most of his stats. He was 20, 12, and 2 with the Heat, 4 years with the Heat, 1-time champ, 3-time All-Star, and 2-time NBA. I mean, this was later in his career, so he's much older, so he was not as agile. So defensively, he was still getting blocks, of course, and being a stud down low, but of course, only 20 and 12. I mean, I say only 20 and 12, but you know, you're number 7, Mike.
Yeah, man, I think you got Shaq. I don't know how you want to say it, too high or too low. The dude, and I know we're looking at it from a time spent on the specific team statistically there. We're flowing here through Magic players. I'm going to stay in Orlando and go with Penny Hardaway. Another guy, I think of him a lot like Tracy McGrady, just a slasher, a real true scorer. I believe, gosh, I mean, he's got to be top 1 or 2 Magic players of all time. With the Magic, only 20 points per game, 4.7 rebounds per game, 6.3 assists. The assists are fairly high there. Honestly, Penny Hardaway is one of those guys where if it wasn't for injuries,
Yeah.
gosh, he might have been one of the best point guards of all time. You're talking about a 6'7" true point guard. That is insane height and length for a player at that position. That is a nightmare to match up with defensively.
Yeah, I think he was about 5 or 6 years out of his time. If he was born 5 or 6 years later, that guy would have been a force to be reckoned with. I mean, he still was back then, of course, playing with Shaquille O'Neal and that Magic team. But like you said, unfortunately for injuries, the guy missed out on probably one of the best careers of all time. I mean, it's another thing with Derrick Rose. Injuries can kill somebody. But I
Totally.
had Penny Hardaway. I was looking at his stats. I mean, I just couldn't put him on my list. I'm sorry, Mike.
It's a feel thing. It's a watching him play thing, you know.
Right.
Because I understand. I totally agree. 19 points per game.
And he's making a living right now as a coach out there in Memphis. He's doing great. He got James Wiseman to come to his team. Unfortunately, he paid him, or there were some money issues there. But he also had some other great players to come out of high school to the Tigers. So I'll bring you and give you my number 6, Dwight Howard. I told you we'd mention him some more.
Okay.
He's a 4-time rebounding champ with the Heat, 2-time block champ, 3-time defensive player of the year. Now those are awesome awards right there. 8-time All-Star, 5-time All-Defense, and he averaged 18 and 13 on his career. Now, like you said, he's a little bit lesser than the Shaq, but I mean, I don't know, Mike. Dwight, I'd love to see that matchup, Dwight versus Shaq.
Yeah, both of them in their prime. Are you kidding me? You're talking the Shaq Diesel versus the
Superman.
I hate to harp on the more athletic it's look. You look at Dwight Howard's body compared to Shaq. I think they're probably fairly similar in the height department. Maybe Dwight Howard's got an inch. I don't even know if that matters.
No, I think Shaq's like 7'2", 7'1".
Is he? Okay.
He's 7'1".
I stand corrected. So yeah, wow. Again, they're so similar. It's hard to argue. I don't know.
Do you know the size of Shaq's foot?
I don't even want to. What is it?
25 inches.
25. I was going to say 18, 25. Dear God.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Wow.
So who was your number 6?
Yeah, so then I've got someone you've already mentioned, Alonzo Mourning. Look, here's the deal. It's less of a statistics argument here. It's more of an impact argument. He is so integral to the organization of the Miami Heat. He really put them on the map in the mid-90s and really helped them get to that first championship in 2006. I know you just mentioned him 12 minutes per game in that 2005-2006 run with Dwayne Wade, Shaq, etc. I totally feel that. I do. But he was I want to say Alonzo Mourning, and I think a lot of Heat fans would agree, he is responsible for putting that team on the map and building them up to a place where they could contend for a championship. He's really the heart and soul of that team for over a decade.
It's unfortunate too because he also played on the Charlotte Hornets a couple years after the expansion years. He was the number one overall pick, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. With Larry Johnson the following year. So that team was pretty stacked with Muggsy Bogues, Kendall Gill. Who'd you say they took first overall?
I think they were second. So the Heat, I forget who the Heat took, but then the Hornets took Del Curry.
Del Curry, yeah. So Del Curry, Muggsy Bogues, Larry Johnson, and Mourning. Fortunately, they were in the era with Michael Jordan, so nothing brewing there.
Yeah, and just to kind of defend Alonzo Mourning here, he did have the kidney disease issue, which sidelined him big time. I think he actually retired for a moment, and then he did come back to the team. Wasn't the same, but still, another injury, big time injury issue that halts a player's career.
Yeah, I can agree with you there. He was a veteran, right, when he was with the Heat. So having a veteran on your team just brings so much more atmosphere to a squad. So, yeah.
Totally.
I'll give you my number 5 here. Elvin Hayes of the Washington Bullets at the time. He was a 12-time All-Star, 2-time All-Defense, 2-time rebounding champ. Only one with the Wizards, of course. And the NBA champ in 78. Wes Unseld was also on that squad. So imagine having the Eiffel Towers, as you'd probably call them, with Wes Unseld and Elvin Hayes. But Hayes, he was a back to the basket and cleaning up other people's trash down low. So
no doubt, I love it. You're bringing some history here to our list.
You have to.
Rounding it out.
Before you say your number 5, Bill Simmons said in his book, The Book of Basketball, people forget how good people were back then. Like we just lose it. John Havlicek of the Celtics. That guy's fourth, or not fourth. I think he's 11th on the all-time scoring list and fourth in minutes per game, minutes played of all time. I mean, that guy was really good.
Yeah, and that's what year was the 3-point line introduced?
I think it was after Havlicek, so maybe mid-70s.
Yeah, the game has changed so much, man. So you're totally right. We need to. I've only read part of that book. I've got it. You're inspiring me to.
It's really
to
good.
dig deeper.
You have to read it.
Yeah. Okay, I will. I promise you that. Let's see. What are we on? Number 5 here, or number 6?
5.
Okay. Now, I haven't heard his name, so I'm guessing he's further down on your list here. But I'm going to go Dominique the Freak, the human highlight film, Dominique Wilkins. The dude was just an athletic monster. He was the franchise player of the 80s and early 90s for the Atlanta Hawks. I mean, he displayed a brand of athleticism that was new, and he was pretty much unstoppable as a scorer at that time. I mean, he averaged 26 points per game over 12 years in a Hawks uniform. I think his highest scoring season came in 86 at 30 points per game.
Yeah.
9-time All-Star, slam dunk champion. I think we think of him as, again, the human highlight film, his slam dunking ability. That dude was unbelievable.
Yeah, his windmill dunk package was phenomenal.
Yes.
So I'm going to back you up right here. And he's my number 4 on my list, Dominique Wilkins, 9-time All-Star. Like you said, a scoring champ with his 30 points per game and 7-time All-NBA. It's kind of funny that he only has those 3 awards. I don't think he's made it to the playoffs much. He didn't really get much help from his team. And of course, I mean, you can say this, the 80s were locked up, or the late 80s and the 90s were locked up by Jordan, the Pistons, and the Celtics, but he didn't really have much on his team. Randy Whitman, Kevin Willis, Doc Rivers, Tree Rollins, and Spud Webb, the other short guy in the league.
Spud Webb.
Dominique Wilkins, he was the human highlight film.
Okay, so yeah, dude, I hear you on Dominique. We're gonna go to my number 4, a little higher up on your list, unfortunately, Landon. Shaq Diesel, Shaquille O'Neal, 92 to 96 in Orlando. His career points per game, 23, but as a Magic, almost 28 points per game, 12 rebounds a game. That's a double-double right there. Now, Shaq brought him to their first, I believe it was the Magic's first appearance in an NBA Finals. Him and Penny Hardaway. Look, he's arguably one of the greatest centers to ever play the game. He had a huge impact on the franchise of the Orlando Magic. You know, his numbers for the team and then both his career kind of speak for themselves. That's why I've got Shaq Daddy at 4.
Yeah. All right, Mike, listen here. My thing on Shaq, when you talk about players making lists, the greatest of all time, we'll even do the Michael Jordan LeBron one. What comes into play? Championships, MVPs. Shaq, he's number 4 on your list. He has no MVPs and 1 championship. In that championship, he was the Robin to Dwayne Wade, who was the Batman. Dwayne Wade carried that team. Shaq, of course, 20 and 12, that's great and all, but Dwayne Wade was the heart and soul of that squad. I'll tell you my number 3 right here and tell me if he ranks anywhere close to Shaq in the good way. 2-time MVP, right there, you got Shaq on 2. 2-time scoring champ, got Shaq on 2. An NBA champ, tied with Shaq. So 11-time All-Star. I hate to say it, but I think it's kind of an awards league. But you could argue it was the 1950s that Bob Pettit played. But I mean, come on. Basketball is basketball no matter what year it is. And Bob Pettit was the best player in his time. Back to the basket type player, up and under, grabbing those rebounds, putbacks. And he had an ugly jumper, don't get me wrong, but he could still hit those 15-footers.
But we're talking about a time in the league where much less parity, much less talent around him. There is a reason a lot of these guys were able to stand out and shine. Why I'm not going to discount Bill Russell's 11 championships, but come on, the league right now, you've got a Shaq on every team. You've got unbelievable scoring talent all around the league, especially you want to talk present day. It is unbelievably different. So while I hear you, I think you're discounting the impact a guy like Shaq has had on a team, an organization, the type of space, the type of freedom he frees up for a player like Dwayne Wade on the
Right.
floor.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. 1950s, 2000s. It's a tough argument to make. I'll just say one thing on the Bill Russell thing. 11 championships, that's tough. That's so hard to do. It's hard to win one. It's hard to get to one. But anybody could have won the second year. This is going to sound weird, but in the book of basketball, again, I'll reference that again. That a lot of my stuff is coming from there, but Bill Russell said it took a team to do that. Bill Russell was great and all, but he also had Bob Cousy, John Havlicek. He had some other great talent too, but it's a team game. So Mike,
No question.
who was your number 3? Did you say Shaq was your 3 or was he 4?
Shaq, I believe, was my number 4. My number 3, you're not going to like this, Landon. Mr. Dade County, Dwayne Wade, probably the most important member of the Miami Heat historically. You know, you talk about putting Alonzo Mourning, guys like Udonis Haslem. I know they're not big statistical impact, but just like Dwayne Wade, here's what separates Dwayne Wade. He did both. He had the on-court statistical impact while also having the cultural impact, the organizational impact, the impact on the city, the area as a whole. He's just simply the most important Heat player of all time. And they had LeBron James for 4 years, who brought him to 2 NBA Finals during that. I believe it was 4 years.
Brought him the 4.
I'm sorry, brought them home to championship rings. Obviously, Dwayne Wade was a part of that, along with Chris Bosh and others. But you take out the 2007-2008 season that Dwayne Wade had, which was a bit of a fluke, and we'll just look past his time in Cleveland, his brief little stint there. That dude is a Heat lifer. He is I think he's the most important Heat player of all time. That's probably hard to dispute, but the dude he was smooth. I'm going a lot more on feel here, a lot more on rather than because the stats speak for themselves, but Dwayne Wade just brought a different flavor to the game. He was so smooth, so fun to watch. He's a good dude on top of it, you know. And he brought the Heat their first NBA Finals championship.
When
Jesus.
you say smooth, I like that word there. They call him the Flash for a reason. I forget what I was gonna say, but being with one team for as long as he was is such a big impact. Forgot what I was gonna say something really good, Mike. You're lucky that I forgot what I said. But yeah, Dwayne Wade is my number two. Um, he was the Robin. Unfortunately, when LeBron James came to town, he was the Robin. He's Dwayne Wade might be the best two player on the team. He might be the best Robin of all time. I mean, the only other guy you could say is Scottie Pippen.
Scottie Pippen. Yep.
Yeah. Three-time All-Star. And the thing that's overrated or underrated, overlooked for Wade is his defense. The guy played some great defense. He was a three-time All-Defense, and he actually had a scoring champ in '09.
Yeah. Yeah. No question. I mean, look, Dwayne Wade's impact was enormous.
I remember
Let's
what I
see.
was gonna say.
Yeah, do it.
The top three guys are always. You said making the list was easy once you got to the 1, 2, 3, and I totally agree. It's just the 4 through 10, 4 through 12 that's difficult, but like it's just flows so easy having Wade three for you. I mean, I guess that's for you, but being from Washington, I can see who is on your number one. But Wade for me at number two is the way to go.
Yeah. Okay. I feel that. Let's see. Yeah, my 1 and 2, you're gonna know who they are once I reveal number 2 because he should be number 1. He's number 1 on yours. I have a hard time. I know we've got the rules and the subsets to how we make these lists and all that, and so that's fair. That's fair. So we can tear apart my number 1 for his time spent on his team. My number 2 is LeBron James, obviously with the Miami Heat. Um, brought him a couple championship rings. Gosh, unfortunately, JJ Barea was too much for him, or he could have at least one more. But you're talking a career player of 27 points per game, probably physically the most gifted player we've ever seen, 4-time MVP. LeBron James, it speaks for himself. I don't even really like going through his accolades because we all know him.
Right.
But I remember where I was. This is the impact LeBron has on even just everyday American culture. I remember as look, I'm a big basketball fan, but once Oklahoma City stole my Supersonics, I'm not gonna lie, I distanced myself, not on purpose, but I just because I didn't have a hometown team, I started
Right.
rooting for the Warriors, which paid off in the long run, obviously. But I didn't pay as close attention to the league as I did as a kid, and I'd go to games, blah blah blah. I know exactly where I was when LeBron James came out and announced he was leaving Cleveland and going to Miami, and that it just speaks to his impact on the game. But again, he's number 2 on my list, so I'll save the rest for number 1.
Yeah, Mike, this one you may have not seen this one coming. I mean, it's LeBron James. He's going to be my number one. You spoke on him quite a bit, so not much for me to say here, but the only thing we could say bad about him is he choked a couple finals and he got lucky on one. Ray Allen doesn't hit that shot in that corner, that they lose that series. He lost to that Mavericks team who was not that very talented, right? Dirk Nowitzki was aging quickly, but I guess that proves that veterans and team chemistry can really make a difference, because it was the Heat's first year together, right?
Yep.
When they were going against the Mavs. So chemistry um, didn't help them out there. So
No, but again, it's you look at that. You're so right because okay, the chemistry thing, and you look at the Dallas Mavericks. I remember where I was when I watched this too. You look at the Dallas Mavericks. I will fight you on the Dirk Nowitzki aging because he was still pretty prime form at that
oh,
point.
you don't
But
get me wrong, the guy was great still.
great still, right? But God, I think we're talking like Sean Marion, JJ Barea.
Jason Terry,
Um,
Jason Kidd was on that team even.
yes. Oh my gosh. It. I mean, on paper, even feel wise, it's a team they should handle, right? And they didn't.
Right. Yeah, I mean, JJ hitting some nice threes. Terry was an underrated player, I swear. The guy could really shoot that ball, especially when he played with the Bucks. He always gave LeBron some trouble.
Hey, Jason Terry is a Seattle kid, dude. So
Yeah.
always, always.
I'm from Vermont, so
Yeah,
new players come out. So I'm hoping Anthony Lamb gets to the league.
yeah.
So I guess
Okay,
this leaves us with your surprise number one.
I know it's. I knew it was going to annoy you. That's why I did it. Because how can you not have the goat MJ? And I guess we could have another whole 3,000 hours of podcasts of YouTube video about LeBron versus Michael Jordan, like everybody would like. But here's the deal: Michael Jordan, as a Washington Wizards player, he was like, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Semi Pro, but he was basically minus the owner. He was player,
Yeah,
GM, coach. Basically, he was pretty much responsible for making the personnel decisions. I know that was definitely a part of the agreement for him coming back out and playing. But even as even as an aged, probably much less inspired version of himself, I know he still averaged 20 points a game.
incredible.
Averaging 20 points a game for 2 seasons, he having that on top of his legacy in general only dropped his points per game down to 30 points per game for his career, which is nuts. I mean, I don't know if we're going to see that again, but MJ is the best competitor we've ever seen, and it goes to kind of him being the control freak he truly is at heart. Wanting to have personnel decisions while being on the floor. That's crazy to me. So I just think there's a lot on MJ. In his time as a Washington Wizard. So I got to have my boys back. Really, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, lists like this, you can say awards, you can say stats, but impact is also huge. Touched on earlier. Chris Barr made the argument earlier in the couple shows before. Kawhi Leonard, he was number 2 on our list for, I think it was the Atlantic Division with the Raptors. You say Kawhi, he only played 1 year, but look what he did in that 1 year. Look what Michael Jordan did in these 2 years. I mean, no playoffs, but 21 points. He didn't do much with the record either. 29 and 53 before he came. Then he came in 01, 02, 37 and 45 in back-to-back years. So there's so many more things to look at when you're making lists like this. But Michael Jordan is not supposed to be on this list.
And to back your point, he made some absolutely atrocious player personnel moves as his during those 2 years. So I hear you. I just wanted to argue about Michael Jordan being the GOAT. That's all. I
Yeah,
still keep him at number one too.
you just got done watching The Last Dance. I hear you.
Exactly.
One thing before we wrap this up, Michael Jordan, he just wanted to take another challenge. The competitor he wanted to see if he could do this. Wizards, who were not very good at the time, so he wanted to see if he could make something happen.
Yeah.
So
Well, that was awesome, man.
thanks. Yeah, it was a great show. Thanks for joining. definitely have to have you back. Get your expert analysis back on this show.
Anytime.
But
Yeah, the
thanks for
aged
joining.
perspective.
As for Landon Potvin, this is Beyond the Buzzer. Cool.